Am I making a video / podcast to procrastinate on homework? Yes and no. But I've realized that although I like to say that I'm more introverted now, I am not. I've been going a little crazy because my Furumi is out of the country and has been for the past week and doesn't come back for about another week. And I realized just how much we hang out. So I've been lonely, other than Kev, obviously, but not talking to people makes me go a little crazy, which you would think I would have learned by now, but here we are. But the reason that I wanted to make this episode is A, because I haven't uploaded anything in months, and B, I realized, again, I didn't just realize this, but I remembered and reminded myself that I work better when I talk out loud and process things out loud. So this episode is kind of like, it's going to help me with an assignment that I have actually for my final project, for my capstone. And part of the assignment is writing a reflection paper of kind of like your time in school and as a therapist intern. And I wanted to like, oh my God, I wanted to do this episode anyway, so it's kind of perfect. So we're just gonna get into it. I'm not really gonna go in order. I might come up with things as I go, but here's kind of the stuff that I wrote down. So I worked at a residential facility here in the city. I was a residential counselor, and I kind of wore a lot of hats. I was a quote-unquote therapist. I was a quote-unquote case manager. I don't really know. Well, those are the two hats that I mainly wore. And working in that setting for the first time, I was exposed to a lot of different mental health challenges. It was the first time I'd ever worked with people or met people on the schizophrenia spectrum, personality disorders. I was very familiar with anxiety and depression because I've personally lived it. It was my first time learning about medications. I am not great with like knowing what they were each for, but I knew what they were. So learning about like antipsychotics, antidepressants, anxiety medications, PRNs, which is as needed medications. And it was such a useful and enriching experience, and I'm really thankful that I got to have it. And it was kind of like a stepping stone for me to really explore the field and think, is this something that I want to do for the rest of my life? And, not necessarily residential, but therapeutic wise. So the first thing that I wrote for this was, I literally don't know anything, let alone everything. Even if I have experience on something, doesn't mean I'm an expert on it. I have a really bad habit of kind of going too far on the spectrum of insecure and arrogant. I say that because I doubt myself a lot. And I don't give myself credit where it's due because I never really learned how to do that effectively. So I just never really believed in myself. And so when I would try to be more confident in myself, it would almost toe that line of arrogance of like, oh my God, I know exactly what I'm doing. I was made for this. I can never find a medium because it's like, I kind of live on the extremes. which is something I need to work on in my own therapy. But as I've been an intern, I've been trying to reframe it as like, if I knew everything, I wouldn't be here. And not everyone knows everything. Even if I knew things, it's different when you're in the room. There are certain aspects in our education and our training that we're taught. And some of the time I would be like, yeah, I know that already. Like being culturally informed is one of them, is one of the most important things in therapy. And there was something that happened this week with a client that I didn't consciously think of the cultural aspect of it, like the values of collectivism, and how thinking about what you want rather than what other people want for you is definitely more of a Western idea. It's more of a mainstream American idea that people of immigrant parents don't have the luxury to think about, and I never had that luxury. And so I kind of went to that part of like, okay, let's get you to start thinking about it because that's important. But not everyone really wants that individualistic mindset. And although in this situation it is something that this person wants to work on, it's like, okay, we can't just jump from one side of the spectrum to the other. So anyway, just keeping an open mind. So yeah, just keeping an open mind with those things. Can you see? Okay, I was worried that you could see my address in the background, but if need be, I'll edit this out. Anyway, yeah. I don't know anything. It's really the moral of this story. I know some things. Sometimes it just doesn't feel like I know anything. And that's the thing too. Like I have such great support from my supervisors at my internship site, and really great professors. And they all were just like, this all comes with experience, which you just don't have yet. And it sucks. For a perfectionist, it sucks to hear that because I want to be good at things on my own right now. And you're telling me I have to wait? I have to wait like years probably to even have this grasp and have this intuition. You're telling me intuition isn't just born sometimes, it's learned, and you need patience for that? I want my money back. I'm kidding. Not really though. Which kind of like leads to my next point of like, school is important. It's so important. But there's nothing like sitting in a room with a real person. In my program, we watch videos of like the parents of certain modalities, like John Gottman, Sue Johnson. I'm kind of thinking mainly of couples therapy right now because that's what I'm taking at the moment. We watch videos of them doing their thing. And it's great learning from the masters. Sorry, me saying that also reminds me of Avatar. Is great, and it's helpful in its own way. But there's nothing like just sitting with someone in their emotions that really teaches you so much about other people and yourself. You think that you're gonna have certain things to say, or you feel like you'll know exactly what you'll say in these hypothetical situations, and you do or you don't, but you don't know that until you sit in the room with the other person. Okay. So again, which leads to this next point that I have of like, theories don't necessarily have to be your foundation. The foundation of a good therapist is curiosity, empathy, and being open to feedback. Yes, theories and interventions are important and useful, but none of that matters without a relationship. So at my old job, I really relied on worksheets, interventions, things like that, to run group counseling, quote unquote, sessions. And I thought, cool, like, I'm familiar. I can just search them up and do them in session. And I have not done a single worksheet or specific intervention really in these sessions. Like, I've done some meditations and, active listening skills, blah, 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 strength-based affirmations, but like I haven't whipped out a worksheet to work on things, because like also I work with, oh, by the way, my internship, I'm at a high school. So sometimes these teens just want to come in and just vent and talk for like 40 minutes, maybe 43 minutes, and then you have 2 minutes to say a couple things to affirm them, to validate them. And, I went into it thinking like I'm going to do so much CBT or narrative therapy or whatever, and 90% of it is just listening. And whenever I'm in supervision and I talk about, I feel like I need to have more supervision, or not more supervision, I need to do more interventions. I do need more supervision because it's very so important. And I feel like I should be doing more, and my supervisor's just like, do you have to do more? Like, there's so much power in just sitting with a person and letting them have this space to talk, and it's okay that you're just listening. Like, people tend to overlook that and undervalue it. Some people do have that stereotype of therapy as it's problem solving. Someone's here to give you all the knowledge and wisdom you need to improve your life. And it just isn't that. It's about empowering the other person. It's about just providing a safe space that they probably don't really have anywhere else. And it's really cool to be that person for people. It's really cool that sometimes all I have to do is just listen to them. So there's a lot of power in that. I wrote like really being on top of my personal notes. I used to like kind of take notes when I worked at the residential site, and the clients didn't really care, but for some reason I just haven't been doing that here, and I wish I think some clients could really benefit from that or really enjoy that, but I have a client that isn't a fan, and I haven't really talked with them about trying, but I don't know. There's nothing wrong with taking notes in sessions. Yeah. I should try that. But anyway, keeping personal notes, because not everything paperwork-wise can go into a note. Like, you gotta keep it vague, and you can keep the more, like, detailed notes on your person, like, obviously no names. Yeah, you'll learn about that later, if this is what you want to do. I'm not assuming. Okay, let's see. I wrote, neutrality is a super valid place to get to. We've been exposed to radical self-love and acceptance being the ideal goal, but that's frankly a lot of pressure. I love the radical self-love movement and idea, and I think if you can get to that point, and if that's something you want, it's super important and, again, empowering. And I've found myself wanting to jump to that, of wanting my clients to just love themselves and figure out ways that they, like, figuring out places in their lives where they feel that. And I talked about this in group supervision, and everyone was kind of like, you could just get them to a place of neutrality. Like, not, like, if you validate or affirm or strengthen your client, practicing of just sitting with it and not letting it make or break your day, but just how would it feel to just sit with it and let it go? And I think that's also really, really powerful too. Yeah. And then if they want to go to the self-love route, they can. You can. But sometimes there's not enough time, especially with my internship where I'm seeing some of these kids for a few months. It's just not enough time to get them to the super self-love stuff. Even if they want to do that, it's kind of impossible. Not impossible, but it's very difficult to do so. Yeah. And then the last thing on this list so far, which is something that I hate hearing because it's so repetitive and it's so over talked about, but it's unfortunately very important, is self-care. And in the world where there's a lot happening, there's police brutality, there's a genocide, there's corruption, there's all this fucking bullshit that we have to live in. It's tough to think about this idea of self-care, especially in a place where a lot of people don't feel safe to exist in. So I feel like I'm trying to reframe self-care as just, what can I do to show love for myself, to help myself feel better on a daily basis? And how can I motivate myself to do those things and feel worth doing? Because sometimes taking care of ourselves involves having to love ourselves. And I very much swing on that pendulum of, there are a lot of days where I don't, there are some days I do. And having to learn that like you especially need to do these things on the days where you don't. For example, this morning, or yesterday really, I had a lot of apathy. I just couldn't bring myself to do anything. I managed to walk for an hour on my walking pad. Movement is really important, and I finished a movie. And I thought I'd feel better, but I didn't. So in moments where I'm by myself, like I said, without my Fermi, and Kev's at work the whole day, sitting in that silence and sitting by myself is really hard. And I realized how much of my life I have just distracted myself. I've never actually sat with myself and just asked, like, okay, what makes you feel good? What do you actually enjoy? And I've had to work through the things that I thought I had to do. Like, I can only rest if I did everything. If I did the dishes, if I cleaned my room. And instead of framing it that way of like, I have to do this to deserve rest or love, reframing it as, this, having a clean space makes me feel productive and have a clear mind. And I can do that for myself. There's not this pressure to do these things. I'm not going to get in trouble with anyone if I don't do these things. I'm not any less worthy if I don't do these things. And I have to sit with that too. Like, if I just need to get the work done and I didn't have time to clean, I have to sit with that discomfort for a little bit. And who wants to sit in discomfort, right? But that's what therapy is. It's sitting in the discomfort. Healing is uncomfortable. It's horrific. It's just downright terrifying. But once you kind of get over that hump, it's like, it has to be worth it. Right? Like, it'll get you somewhere. So I've been trying to make a list of what makes me feel good. Yes, water, being hydrated, going out in the sun, breathing fresh air, moving my body are some of the most simple things to do to feel good. And yet, I'm almost paralyzed, and I don't do those things. I think it's because I put a lot of pressure to do those things. It's like, okay, if I do this, I'm going to feel better automatically, and it's not that all the time, and that's okay. Like I said earlier, I want to be good at something on the first try. So if I go stand in the sun for 15 minutes, I'm going to assume I'm going to feel better after that. And when I don't, then it prevents me from doing it again. And I just can't have that mindset. Consistency is what's going to get me to the place where I want to be. And I've always struggled with consistency my whole life. Yeah. So for now, I'm trying to just do things where I can. I had to move the car, and then I saw how beautiful it was today after, weeks of rain and clouds. And I literally just stood outside of my apartment for like 10 minutes and just soaked it in. I don't think I'm sunburned, because if I get this easily sunburned, I'm going to be pissed. And I'm not wearing like body sunscreen. But yeah, I just stood out there. And it felt so good. Being cooped up in the house is just not great. The fresh air, like the breeze, it was just so nice. And here's the thing. I'm going to assume and hope that it's like that every time. But it won't. It really won't. It gets really fucking windy out here. And cold, even though it's sunny. But it feels good. I forget to drink water, so I just have to keep it by me all the time. Use my walking pad, even if it's for 10 minutes. And then once I do it, it's like, okay, I might as well just keep going. I went to the gym this morning. I walked for a little over a mile. I did some strength training. And no, it didn't cure me. I didn't sit here at my desk after I showered and did all my assignments. But it's a start. And once you start, it's like, okay, maybe I can do this again tomorrow. And then maybe I can do it again the next day. And the next day. And if I miss the next day, that's okay. I can do it the next day. Being gentler, being kinder to yourself is so important. You can have all the support in the world. I know I do. I have the most loving, supportive, caring people in my life. And I'm so thankful to be surrounded by them. And also, I can't rely on them to motivate me to do these things. I have to want these things for myself. So, man. See, I really missed recording these things. I talked about things that I hadn't even previously thought about. And like the conceited person I am, I will probably re-listen to this. It's like a diary entry, for me. It's like journaling. Hopefully I'll come up with more things to talk about in my assignment, but I think this is a good place to start. And I'm so excited to keep learning. And the good thing about this profession is you literally can't stop learning. We have to get continued credits or continued education credits for the rest of time, which is really cool because humans change, society changes, and we gotta roll with it. So, thank you so much for listening. I hope this was helpful for anyone listening. Yeah, the imposter syndrome hits really bad for me a lot of the time. So, anyway, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, week, and as always, be yourself, spread love, stay beautiful. May you be safe, may you be healthy, may you be happy, and may you live with ease. It's a meditation I heard today, and I thought I thought it was a good idea to repeat here. So, okay. Thank you. Bye.